Daulatpur Saturia Tornado, Bangladesh, 1989. A normal April evening in Bangladesh slowly turned into something unrecognizable. Around 6:30 p.m., families were eating together after a long day of work. Children played outside barefoot. Smoke from cooking fires drifted between small bamboo homes. The sky felt heavy. Nothing seemed dangerous. There were no sirens, warnings, or even a shout from a neighbor. Suddenly, everything changed. A massive tornado suddenly struck Managanj district, sweeping through Daulatpur and Saturia. Nearly 1.6 kilometers wide, it destroyed everything, including homes, livestock, and entire families instantly. Over 1,300 people died, thousands were injured, and tens of thousands were left homeless. A weaver named Riazuddin Ahmed grabbed his wife and children and pushed them into the only part of their home with cement walls. As the tornado screamed like an endless explosion, he watched 55 of his neighbors die in front of him. Bodies flew into open fields. Survivors described seeing neighbors and children being ripped apart. Bodies flung into fields, walls, and rivers. Those trying to hide in sturdier sections of homes were at extreme risk. The sheer weight and speed caused fatal injuries instantly, with some bodies being dismembered or crushed beyond recognition. Later, rescuers found something almost impossible. Heavy cast iron tube walls ripped completely out of the ground and thrown like toys. Ahmed's family lived, almost everyone else on his street did not. If you're someone who wants real stories, not watered-down versions, subscribe to this channel because this is just the first tragedy, and what comes next is even harder to wrap your mind around. Tri-State Tornado, USA, 1925. The School Bell. March 18th, 1925 began like any other school day. Children sat at their desks, some fidgeting, some daydreaming, some quietly waiting for recess. Teachers moved between the rows, chalk scratching across blackboards as lessons were written. Parents left their homes believing they would return safely at the end of the day. There were also no weather warnings or any signs in the sky that danger was approaching. Everything seemed ordinary. Nothing hinted that this day will become one of the darkest in U.S. history. A tornado formed in Missouri and stayed on the ground for hours, cutting a 219-mile path across 3 states. Towns vanished in minutes, and buildings collapsed as if they were paper. In Gorham, Illinois, almost the entire town was destroyed. When the tornado reached the local school, the structure shook violently. Children inside schools were crushed. Walls buckled, windows shattered, and then the building collapsed. 33 students died as the school disintegrated around them. 13-year-old Margaret Brown was inside when the roof tore off. A heavy brass school bell mounted near the top fell straight down as the tornado tore the building apart, cutting her down instantly. Entire families vanished in moments. Bodies mangled and scattered among debris. Survivors said they never forgot the sound of the collapse. It destroyed childhood rather than a school. Joplin Tornado, USA, 2011, sucked through a sunroof. May 22, 2011 was supposed to be a day of joy. 18-year-old Will Norton had just graduated high school, smiling in his cap and gown, hugging family, and sharing photos. After the ceremony, he climbed into an SUV with his father, ready for a simple drive home, dinner, and celebration. Nothing in the sky hinted at the horror approaching. Suddenly, an EF5 tornado tore through Joplin, Missouri with unimaginable violence. Homes crumbled, cars were thrown like toys, and entire neighborhoods were obliterated. Inside their SUV, the air pressure dropped sharply, creating a vacuum far stronger than any human could resist. Will's father clutched him, and the tornado sucked him violently through the sunroof, vanishing into the debris-filled darkness. His body was found 3 days later, miles away. Meanwhile, other residents were crushed under collapsing homes. Watching his front door bend and shake, he panicked and tied a bungee cord around his arm to anchor the door. The tornado was merciless. The cord held, but so did the storm, pulling him straight out and killing him instantly. It makes the place into the sheer violence of nature that has mercilessly ripped apart bodies, homes, and the very fabric of the community. Oklahoma Tornado, storm shelter drowning. When tornado warnings blared across Oklahoma City, a 43-year-old woman acted exactly as she had been taught since childhood. She knew the drills, trusted the advice from emergency officials, and believed in the safety of the underground storm shelter she had built years earlier. As the tornado approached, she climbed into the small reinforced space beneath her home, pulling the heavy metal door shut above her. Outside, the wind roared like a freight train, debris flying like deadly shards of glass and splintered wood. Inside, there was an eerie, suffocating silence. For a brief moment, there was relief. She had survived the hurricane-force winds, the walls of homes bending, roofs torn away, and neighbors' bodies torn by flying debris. Limbs were shattered, torsos crushed, and people were hurled into the air or smashed against walls, reduced to broken, unrecognizable fragments. She imagined she would emerge unscathed, grateful for following the rules that were meant to save her life. But the storm had not finished. Torrential rain flooded streets, carrying wreckage, shattered furniture, and the remains of those unlucky enough to be caught above ground. Slowly, water seeped into her shelter, rising higher, soaking her surroundings. Trapped and unheard, she faced an unimaginable horror. She drowned slowly in the very place built to protect her, a grim reminder that safety itself can turn into nature's cruelest weapon. Andover Tornado, Kansas, 1991, the filming tragedy. As a massive tornado barreled towards Andover, Kansas, an elderly man stepped outside his home, camera in hand. He wanted to capture the approaching storm, to record what he thought would be a fleeting but awe-inspiring moment of nature's power. The funnel cloud grew larger with every second, twisting violently in the sky, its roar growing louder and more menacing. The wind howled through the neighborhood, shaking trees and rattling windows, but the man remained focused, determined to document what he believed he could safely observe. Suddenly, the tornado struck with overwhelming force. The man was hurled backward down the narrow basement stairs, his body battered by broken railings and jagged debris. Pain shot through him, yet somehow he survived. Below, in the basement, his wife and a close friend had already sought refuge, trusting the instructions meant to keep them alive. They believed the solid ground would protect them, but the tornado had other plans. The floor above collapsed under the storm's relentless pressure. Heavy beams, furniture, and walls crashed down, crushing them instantly. Limbs were shattered beyond recognition, torsos flattened under the weight of the debris, and blood mixed with splintered wood. There was no chance to escape, only silence broken by the howling wind above. The man who had been outside filming watched in horror as those who followed the rules were obliterated before him. He survived, but only to witness the brutal reality. Preparation and caution can fail against nature's most merciless fury. El Reno Tornado, Oklahoma, 2013, The Storm Chasers. Tim Samaras and his son Paul had devoted their entire lives to understanding tornadoes. For decades, they had chased storms across the plains, studying patterns, measuring wind speeds, and documenting their destructive power. They were regarded as some of the most knowledgeable storm researchers in the world, experts who could read the skies in ways most people could not. On May 31st, 2013, they followed a tornado near El Reno, Oklahoma, confident in their experience and ability to observe it safely. Alongside them was a fellow storm chaser, Carl Young, another veteran who trusted his knowledge and skill. But this tornado was unlike any they had seen before. Without warning, the storm expanded dramatically, becoming the widest tornado ever recorded at 2.6 miles across. The wind shifted suddenly, violently, and their vehicle was trapped in its path. Escape was impossible. The tornado moved with a speed and unpredictability that defied even the Samaras' team's decades of experience. As the storm closed in, their final radio transmission captured the horror in real time. "We're going to die. We're going to die." In an instant, the tornado shredded their vehicle, flinging debris and metal with unimaginable force. Bodies were crushed, twisted, and thrown into the chaotic whirlwind. Bones broken, skin lacerated, and forms distorted beyond recognition. Tim, Paul, and Carl were killed where they stood, victims of the storm's merciless power. Even their immense knowledge could not shield them from the tornado's brutal and unstoppable force. If these stories showed you even a fraction of how powerful nature can be, then imagine the hundreds of other disasters people have forgotten. If you want me to cover the next one, tell me the name in the comments. And if you want these real human stories kept alive, the simplest way to support this channel is by subscribing to help preserve history every single time you do.